Well, hello, welcome to Crewe Station. That was a Class 350 on a London North Western Railway service from Crewe to Stafford, and that's exactly what we're going to embark on today. A fairly sedate run, about 40 minutes or so. You can see a Pandolino waiting in the platform, and we're about to set things up. Let's get the doors open to begin with.
TPWS and AWS operational.
Have we got a green signal? We have, so we'll put that on to turn that DSD off. We also mustn't forget as well that we have to mark this thing as well, acknowledge, so that we've got a tick, otherwise we won't be able to move. And I think I did spot as well that, if I can find it, on here somewhere. Yeah, we've got Crewe there, haven't we? So I don't think it moves by pressing the arrows as it goes. I think we have to do it manually, but we need to set that up to Stafford. Sure, it's on here somewhere. There we go. We could do with some lights going on as well. Let's put the picture in. Yeah, lights wise we are okay. There we are. So we better get going. The distinctive sound of the Class 350 D0, and of course, if you're not so used to Train Sim Classic and you're more used to Train Sim World 5, you'll be very familiar with this unit, having operated these trains from London Euston to Milton Keynes Central. They were built between 2004 2014, so-called D0s. They were a joint enterprise really originally, and they were acquired by Central Trains and Silverlink. Slightly moody looking sky as well. As we look over Crewe, you can see Gresty Road, or should we call it the Crewe Alex Stadium, in the background. So we'll be calling today at Alsager, Kidsgrove, Longport, Stoke-on-Trent, Stone and Stafford. Now, after it was Central Trains and Silverlink, I mean, these units then were used by London Midland, and they had some interesting operations, because they used to do a service from Crewe to London Euston, which actually went via Stoke-on-Trent and stopped at Stone. So that happened for a while. They also had Crewe to Birmingham New Street, which is kind of what this service is. But then in more recent times, certainly since COVID, they become a Crewe to Stafford service. So you can get a direct train to Birmingham New Street on a 350 from Crewe, but it goes straight down the main line, straight through to Stafford. But for the other passengers along this route, apart from at Stoke where you can get the cross-country Voyager service from Stoke to Birmingham New Street, but otherwise for passengers stopping at the other stations along the way, you would have to change at Stafford. There you go, speeding already. And I've probably mentioned before, if you watched any of the other videos where we've gone down this particular branch, but it is single track in places between Crewe and certainly Alsager anyway, and it's also curiously, I mean, back in the 80s it was still very much diesel between Kidsgrove and Crewe, so they were the preserve of Crewe to Derby and Nottingham, and some went on to Lincoln. It's also quite a up and down line as well, roller coaster like in places. I mean, you've got 1 in 71 climb at the moment, then suddenly you'll find will drop quite rapidly as well. And this is on Alan Thompson's Missing Link, the West Coast Main Line Missing Link route, which is available from alanthompsonsim.com. So a fairly run-of-the-mill run. And I like to do special workings, try to do historic workings and all sorts of rail tours, all sorts of things that are available, the various websites, but it's kind of nice to do a run-of-the-mill, everyday, regular service such as this sometimes. And I thought it was just about the right length for a video as well. It's about 40 minutes all told, passing through the Staffordshire countryside. There we are, back to being double track. And I mean, even in the 80s this was a diversionary route that was used commonly at weekends when the direct line between Stafford and Crewe was closed. So you'd very often see at Stoke, you would see services coming in, diesel hauls with an electric behind. And apart from the fact that it obviously saved money, you really can't see what the electrification planners were thinking about in the 60s, because it was such an obvious route that should be electrified. And it's been very useful, and of course it has meant this all-electric service that now operates here between Crewe and Stafford. I have to say the route's looking quite splendid as well, with the Armstrong Powerhouse weather pack. I think this is version 2 now. I finally gave way into buying that before Christmas. I wasn't all that bothered about it until the Class 378 enhancement pack came out, and I was looking at some of the other videos and I thought they look a lot better than mine. And I have to say it does make a difference. Classic UFO sounds of the 350. So we come into Alsager. Being reasonably local, I'm fairly confident in calling it Alsager. I know Anne Jeremy in her announcements calls it Alsager. I've heard people call it Alsager, but I've always certainly known it as Alsager. We'll try and stop before the 4-car marker, and I think that's just about perfect. Not like me. One of those stations where clearly in years gone by it was built for much extended trains, but never really materialised. Some lovely detail here, look. Welcome to Alsager. Railway town since 1848. And we've got a nice custom build as well. And I have to say, with this weather pack, I've never seen it looking so nice. So looking at the times, we should be 12:42. How are we doing? Yeah, we're alright. We might still make it to Kidsgrove on time. Thought perhaps that little pause to look around at Kidsgrove might have lost us a little bit of time. I know one or two people have asked some of the videos I've done before about the track that's in use, and it starts off with the Armstrong Powerhouse enhancement pack, and then there's a sort of improved textures with a patch from Alan Thompson sim.com. I have to say they look nice, and I know the graphics aren't quite up to Train Sim World 5 standards, but pretty decent. So we are on quite a steady uphill climb. And we're going to climb steadily to Kidsgrove. I mean, as a basically soaked lad, I've got to say, for years and years and years I've been waiting for somebody to build this area in Train Sim, either Train Sim Classic or Train Sim World. A neutral section here. The bit really messy now is between Kidsgrove and Macclesfield and Stockport. I did download a route absolutely ages ago where basically it was just green scenery, and I've had a go at filling in a bit of scenery along the way, but I mean, I started that, I think it was something like 2016 it might have been, so it's been going a long old way, and the scenery in places, but it really isn't up to standard. We'll idle up towards the signal. Stop marker. This is Kidsgrove. Sure why somebody's walking up in the shrubbery there. Of course, that is where the line goes off to Manchester Piccadilly. Unfortunately, not very far in real life here, as you can see. There's a Tesco over there in real life. But this is a very interesting point as well about the canal, because you have this... I mean, I used to think this was just pure pollution. It looked absolutely horrible, but I believe it's something to do with the rocks, and it's like sediment or something like that. I mean, I'm no geologist, but that is as I understand it. But all the same, it looks absolutely brilliant how they've done it. Try and not go too fast. That's the trouble. You're trying to get these artistic views, and then you run the risk of speeding. And we've got this section now. This was newly built in the 60s to go through the modern Harecastle tunnel. And I think the old tunnels are still there in real life that were built before the electrification, but they weren't deemed up to scratch in terms of... Yeah, I don't think they're actually represented in the game, but they weren't considered satisfactory for the electrified railway, so they built a brand new Harecastle tunnel. So we are stopping at Longport as well. Now with Crewe, of course, these days. Not sure exactly when that was closed. So if we were driving a Pendolino, we would be good for 105 miles an hour, but I think this is restricted down to 85. Well, I never set the GSMR, did I? Might have to wait till we stop. This is very familiar territory for me. Right, now we can go up to 90. I know that's a JCB unit over there in real life. Of course, you don't get any branding in this game. But I love how they've captured this particular area. I mean, it's very industrial. Here's the Longport area, and they've captured it perfectly. Relatively disused for many years in and around Longport, but seems to have had a bit of revitalisation in recent times. And the sad thing is, I think that the station buildings that you see in proper detail on the left, you know, proper North Staffordshire Railway detail, and in the style that you'll see at Stoke Station, but sadly I think everything's boarded up. You can't go in there anymore. And if you cast the camera along to here, there's no traffic on there, unfortunately. I guess that was a bit of a deal breaker in terms of frame rates, and you kind of never get close enough normally to see it. But this is the A500, and they've made great effort to put all the slipways in and the access points, so very nicely done. So Stoke-on-Trent is next. We'll see if we can make Stoke on time. I think anybody that knows the Stoke area will certainly agree and say that they've done a good job on this route. We're looking forward to the Manchester commuter route coming out from Malin Thompson Sim when they make it possible to do in a Pendolino or a 323 Manchester Piccadilly to Wilmslow, and also Manchester Airport to Manchester Piccadilly. But it'd be really good if at some point we will get the, you know, for Trainton Classic, I'm saying really, we could get that bit from filled in between Kidsgrove and Stockport. Of course, we've already got Stockport to Manchester Piccadilly with the Hope Valley route off Just Trains. And I think few would argue, as we're coming towards Stoke Station, that for a small station, Stoke-on-Trent Railway Station is absolutely gorgeous. Just past the signal box, signalling centre I suppose we should call it nowadays. That emanates from the electrification, I think, in the 60s, coming into platform 1 at Stoke. But quick look at the outside. I mean, the only slight disappointment for me, you've got the North Stafford Hotel opposite in reality, and we haven't got a custom build for that. That would have been nice, but apart from the fact that the flag is absolutely still, and clearly they're photographs, but it kind of does the job. Excuse me. But aside for that, I mean, you look at that view there, and the way the shadows work and everything, it's absolutely brilliant. That's a quick look at obviously the car park nowadays at the back of platform 2. For many years that was just deserted, and it used to be, I think, before electrification times, there used to be a big goods yard there open at the back. So we have got a little bit of a wait here, so we are going to get an odd time departure at 12:58. I don't think we're going to see an absolute massive amount of AI traffic on this run, because it is essentially the home of either 350s. We could have seen a East Midlands Railway service, I guess, but I don't think we've seen one of those. But we've got the 350s, the Pendolinos, and the cross-country workings with the Voyagers. We're going over Glebe Street Bridge in a moment, so many a double-decker bus has come a cropper with that, where it shouldn't have been scheduled to go under. And you've also got there, incidentally, the sixth form college building, which I'm very pleased to see they've done an attempt to do a custom build on that. You got the line diverging away. There's a Manchester Piccadilly bound Pendolino. We just had the line diverging away towards Derby. Yeah, I must admit I've never bought the cloud pack. I've never really seen the sense of that, but this weather enhancement pack version 2 definitely does improve the overall appearance. And you'll see there, again, it's not a custom model, but of course that is, well, I still call it the Britannia Stadium really, but the Bet365 Stadium, and that's kind of what the bridge looks like going up to it, more or less. And we've got Sir Stanley Matthews Way running alongside us, which will join up with the Trentham-Longton Road that we're about to pass under. And here on the left, I mean, you used to have Hemheath Pit, Colliery, and also the site just before the bridge of Trentham Station in years gone by. There used to be a branch that went out to Trentham Gardens as well, believe it or not, on excursion trains many years ago. Yeah, Trentham Station literally would have been round about here, and I think sort of the paths, the walkways are still almost there in situ. Where's that train gone? This is Wedgwood Factory as well on the left. And now we've got a curious couple of oddities, because this is Wedgwood Station. Now the platforms are still very much in situ, but trains haven't run there for a number of years. And this is the same with Barliston as well coming up. There have been calls, particularly for Barliston, to be reopened again. Not sure there's a ready-made car park to go with it, that's the only thing, but certainly for the local residents in Barliston it would be a great advantage to have a train service again. There are buses, I think, that run along the way, but there used to be direct trains that stopped at Wedgwood, Barliston, Stone, Norton Bridge and Stafford. Norton Bridge, they were even more dynamic because they took the bridge up to make sure that there was no access to the platforms. They said it was too unsafe. Wasn't really very conducive towards Virgin Trains' plans, as far as I believe anyway, my opinion, to reorganise and have a faster, better timetable. The idea of having stopping trains, stopping at all these little places between Stoke-on-Trent and Stafford just wasn't tolerable. Now, Stone that we're coming up to very nearly fell by the wayside as well, which would have been an absolute shame, and luckily the local community and local council got together and made sure that Stone Station remained very much operational, and I think the building itself is used for community activities. And I think there was a period where it didn't have stopping train services, but thankfully that's not now the case. Sadly, they don't have that direct London Euston train that they had a few years ago under London Midland. But at least you can get on a train at Stone. I'm being a bit slow as we get towards this 25-mile-an-hour bend. Usually I come hurtling towards it and don't get anywhere near. So we are signalled right with the feather, and this was at the location at the start of the video where you saw the 350 coming into. Of course, the straight line is the fast line where London Euston trains go to avoid Stafford. They'll go to College Junction. That goes via Sandon amongst other places. You can see that's beautifully done. So we've got ticks so far, which is always good. Actually, we should be alright because we haven't got a time to meet exactly for Stafford. We'll see if we can get there on time though with the 13:17 arrival. Might have started out a few seconds early actually from Stafford. Here's a cross-country working. And you've spoilt it with that, isn't it? And that's the A34. A number of times I've passed over that over the years. Local people will know that the Wayfarer pub is near to the bridge there on the A34. So we're only relatively a few miles away from Stafford. So a fairly short journey, and certainly I must admit, driving this, it's absolutely raced by, literally. So we talked about Norton Bridge not having a station anymore, but it has inherited something. Well, it's not really inherited it, it's come at a considerable cost, but there used to be just a simple junction for trains between Norton Bridge and Stoke-on-Trent, which was fine really for southbound traffic such as this, but if you're coming northbound, you had to cross the West Coast Main Line, so it was a bit of a blockage point. And then a few years back they built huge amount of infrastructure with a flyover going over, and it means that now doesn't involve conflicting movements. And you kind of feel as though, I mean, they could have done it a lot more simply than they did. There's all sorts of variations to it. And you can see here, I think the old way of getting onto the main line was on the left there, but we're taking one of these diversionary routes. I should have looked up for the stream, the cost of it, but it certainly wasn't cheap. But you can see there, that's the part of the main line going underneath. And if you're driving about this part of the world, you're kind of amazed at all the little sections that there is. It's quite complicated. Because at the moment we're still on this new stretch of track, I think. We're not rejoined the main line. There you go, there's another cross-country working. That's Bristol Temple Meads to Manchester Piccadilly. What time are we supposed to be arriving in? 13:17. I don't think that'll be a great difficulty. So after all that, we finally regain the West Coast Main Line proper. This is now the direct train line between Crewe and Stafford. And again, if you're not too familiar with Alan Thompson's West Coast Main Line missing link route, then you could also do that section as well. It's perfectly possible to do a Liverpool Lime Street to Birmingham New Street service, which do traverse the main line. And I think what came with the pack as well, there was a Birmingham New Street to Crewe, which at the time that used to be a thing, but has been dropped from the timetable, much I suspect to the consternation of local passengers, because if you commute from Birmingham to Stoke, then your options are a little bit more limited. We're less than 2 miles away from Stafford, so the crucial question now is, we got a cautionary hour. I think it's for the junction. This is to help us get into platform 6. You always have to be a little bit careful when you see flashing signals, because the idea is you'll then get a single yellow beyond this, and there's no guarantee that the one after is going to clear for the junction, so we still could be held yet for the platforms into Stafford. And with all the action with the signals, I didn't get a chance to tell you, but we just passed under the M6 motorway as well. Forgot to check who the scenario was by, but this is again downloaded from Alan Thompson simulation, and it's 2 Kilo 94. Never did set that GSMR, did I? Never mind. And we are signalled into platform 6. You do need the West Coast Main Line Trent Valley route apart from 1 or 2 other ones, Liverpool, Manchester as well. But that will give you Stafford Station, which again, it's quite an old piece of DLC now, but it does feel very much like Stafford Station, nicely built. Not that it's possible to really describe Stafford Station as being nice. It's very much, I almost want to say a concrete monstrosity, really. Completely demolished and rebuilt in the 60s. But it serves its purpose. And coming into this platform reminds me of the days years ago when they used to do Stafford to Manchester Piccadilly with the Class 304s. I'd love to see a 304 or even a 310 in the game. Let's try and open the doors. There we go, that's what I was trying to do. Sometimes press all the buttons known to mankind in this game. Well, I hope you enjoyed it. It was just a simple, short ride from Crewe to Stafford, London North Western Railway service, moody sky, and really enjoyed that run. hope you can join me for one of the live streams on Sunday. And if you've liked the video, incidentally, then please don't forget to like and subscribe. Thank you very much to everybody that has subscribed previously. Thanks for the support. And until next time, it's goodbye from me, and see you on Sunday. 5 o'clock is usually the time for the live streams. Bye for now.